The space station floated in the darkness between three empires. They called it Horizon's Edge. It was a place where enemies could meet without killing each other. At least that was the idea. Kang Tai-ho stood near the observation window and watched the stars. He was 28 years old, but his eyes looked older. War did that to people. He had fought in 6 campaigns across 4 different planets. He had killed. He had watched friends die. And now the military had sent him here to stand in a fancy uniform and look impressive. He did not feel impressive. He felt tired. "You look bored," said Captain Hyun, walking up beside him. The older man was Tae-ho's commanding officer, and the closest thing he had to a father. "Missing the battlefield already?" "No," Tae-ho said honestly. "I am just not good at standing still." Captain Hyun laughed softly. "None of us are. But this assignment is important. The Valari Emperor is sending his daughter to negotiate. We are here to make sure nothing happens to her." Tae-ho nodded. He knew the situation. The galaxy was balanced on a knife's edge. 3 powers controlled everything: the Human Alliance, the Valari Empire, and the Kithran Dominion. They had fought wars for centuries. Now they were trying peace. Nobody believed it would last, but everyone pretended it would. The Valari were tall and elegant, with silver skin and eyes like liquid gold. They considered themselves the most civilized species in the galaxy. The Kithrans were different. They were insect-like, with hard shells and many eyes. They were warriors bred for conquest. Most species feared them. And then there were the humans. Small, soft, short-lived. The other species often wondered how humans had survived at all. They had no claws, no armor, no special powers, but somehow humans kept winning. They kept surviving. They refused to stay dead. Tae-ho did not think about such things. He just wanted to finish this assignment and go home. His sister Hana was waiting for him on Earth. She had been sick since childhood, and he sent most of his salary to pay for her treatments. Everything he did for her. The next day, the Valari princess arrived. Her name was Yuna. She was young by Valari standards, only 200 years old. To humans, she looked like a woman in her early 20s. Her silver skin glowed softly, and her golden eyes held a warmth that surprised Tae-ho. Most Valari looked at humans like they were interesting insects. Yuna looked at them like they were people. Tae-ho was assigned to her personal guard. He expected her to ignore him. Instead, she spoke to him on the very first day. "You are human," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, princess," he replied, keeping his eyes forward. "I have read much about your species," she continued. "You fascinate me. You live such short lives, yet you accomplish so much. How do you do it?" Tae-ho was not sure how to answer. "We do not have a choice, princess. We know our time is limited, so we try to make it count." Yuna smiled at that. It was a gentle smile, full of curiosity. "I think I understand. Your weakness is your strength." After that, she talked to him often. She asked about Earth, about human food, about human music. She asked why humans laughed when they were nervous and cried when they were happy. Tae-ho answered as best he could. He found himself enjoying their conversations. Yuna was kind in a way that felt rare and precious. But the Peace Summit was not just about the Valari. On the 3rd day, the Kithran Dominion arrived. Their ships were black and sharp, like blades cutting through space. When they docked at the station, Tae-ho felt a cold feeling in his stomach. He had fought Kithrans before. He knew what they could do. Queen Sora led them personally. She was tall, even for a Kithran. Her exoskeleton was deep purple, almost black, and her many eyes reflected light like dark jewels. She moved with the grace of a predator, each step precise and dangerous. Her warriors followed behind her, massive creatures with blades built into their arms. The diplomats greeted her with careful politeness. Queen Sora responded with cold efficiency. She did not care about pleasantries. She was here for power, for advantage, for whatever she could take. But then her eyes found Tae-ho. He was standing behind Princess Yuna, just another guard in a line of guards. There was no reason for the queen to notice him, but she did. Her gaze locked onto him and stayed there for a long moment. "Interesting," she said softly. Her voice was like silk over steel. Her advisor leaned close. "Your Majesty?" "The human," Queen Sora said. "There is something about him. I can see it in his stance. He has killed before, many times. Humans are weak, Your Majesty. They break easily. Do they? The Queen's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. I have heard different stories. They say humans do not know when to die. They keep fighting long after they should have stopped. She turned away from Taeho, but her interest did not fade. Watch him for me. Taeho did not know about this conversation. He only knew that the Kithrin Queen made him uneasy. There was intelligence in her eyes and cruelty, and something else he could not name. The summit continued. Diplomats talked and argued. Trade agreements were discussed. Territorial boundaries were negotiated. It was all very boring and very important. But beneath the surface, something dark was moving. Captain Hyun pulled Taeho aside one evening. Intelligence reports suggest there might be an assassination attempt, he said quietly. We do not know who the target is. It could be the Queen. It could be the Princess. It could be anyone. Taeho's hand moved to his weapon. What do we do? We stay alert. We trust no one. Captain Hyun put a hand on Taeho's shoulder. You are one of my best soldiers. I need you sharp. Yes, sir. That night, Taeho could not sleep. He stood at his window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning. Hana was sleeping in her small apartment, waiting for him to come home. He had promised her he would return. He had never broken a promise to her. But as he watched the Kithrin ships floating in the darkness, he felt a strange certainty growing in his chest. Something was coming. Something that would change everything. He just did not know what. Princess Yuna found him in the corridor the next morning. Her golden eyes were worried. Taeho, she said softly, I had a strange feeling last night, like something bad is going to happen. I felt it too, he admitted. She reached out and touched his arm. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. Promise me you will be careful. Taeho looked at her gentle face, at the kindness in her eyes. She was a princess of a great empire, and she was worried about a simple human soldier. I promise, and he said. But even as he spoke the words, he knew that some promises were impossible to keep. The grand banquet was the most important event of the summit. All three powers would sit together in one room. They would eat, drink, and pretend to be friends. Everyone wore their finest clothes. Everyone smiled their fakest smiles. Taeho stood behind Princess Yuna's chair, his eyes constantly moving. The ballroom was huge, filled with hundreds of guests from dozens of species. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Music played softly in the background. It looked beautiful and peaceful. But Taeho could feel the tension in the air. It was like electricity before a storm. Queen Sora sat across the room, surrounded by her Kithrin warriors. She wore a crown made of black metal, and her purple exoskeleton gleamed under the lights. Several times during the evening, Taeho caught her looking at him. Each time he looked away. Princess Yuna was talking with a Valari diplomat, her musical voice carrying over the noise of the crowd. She looked happy, relaxed. She had no idea what was coming. Neither did Taeho. Not really. The attack began without warning. The first explosion came from the kitchen. The doors blew inward, and smoke filled the air. Guards rushed forward, but they were met with plasma fire. Figures in black armor poured into the ballroom, their weapons blazing. Screams filled the air. Guests ran in every direction. Tables were overturned. Glass shattered. Taeho grabbed Princess Yuna and pulled her down behind a fallen table. Stay low, he shouted. What is happening? She cried, her golden eyes wide with fear. Assassins, Taeho said. He drew his weapon and looked around, trying to understand the situation. The attackers were Kithrin. He could see their insect-like forms moving through the smoke. But they were not wearing the Queen's colors. They were rebels, dissidents who opposed Queen Sora's rule. Intelligence had warned about them, but nobody expected an attack this bold. More explosions, more screaming. The Valari guards were falling one by one, their elegant armor no match for Kithrin plasma weapons. Taeho counted the attackers. At least 30, maybe more. They were moving with purpose, pushing toward one specific area of the room, toward Princess Yuna. Taeho understood in that moment. The rebels did not want to kill Queen Sora. They wanted to start a war, and killing the Valari princess would do exactly that. The Valari would blame the Kithrins. The alliance would collapse. Chaos would follow. "We need to move," Taeho said. He pulled Yuna to her feet and began guiding her toward the exit. But the exits were blocked. The rebels had planned well. Captain Hun appeared beside them, blood running down his face. "The back passage," he gasped. "It is our only chance." They ran. The three of them moved through the chaos, ducking under plasma bolts, stepping over bodies. Taeho kept himself between Yuna and the attackers, his body a shield. They were almost at the back passage when Taeho saw it. A sniper, high on the balcony, hidden in the shadows. His weapon was aimed directly at Princess Yuna. Time slowed down. Taeho did not think. He did not calculate. He simply acted. He threw himself in front of Yuna just as the sniper fired. The plasma bolt hit him in the chest. The pain was beyond anything he had ever felt. It was like fire and ice at the same time, burning through his flesh, cooking his organs. He felt his heart stop. He felt his body start to die. But even as he fell, his hand moved. Training took over. Instinct took over. He raised his weapon and fired 3 shots at the balcony. The sniper fell. Taeho hit the ground hard. His vision was going dark. He could hear Yuna screaming his name, but it sounded far away, like she was calling from another world. "No! Taeho! No!" He felt her hands on his face. Her tears fell on his skin, warm and wet. He wanted to tell her it was okay. He wanted to tell her not to cry. But his mouth would not work. His heart had stopped. He knew that. He could feel the emptiness in his chest where the beat should be. But something strange was happening. Deep inside him, something refused to give up. Human bodies were fragile, yes, but they were also stubborn. Millions of years of evolution had created a species that did not know how to quit. Even when everything was lost, humans kept trying. 18 seconds passed. Taeho's heart started again. It was weak and irregular, but it was beating. His lungs pulled in air. His eyes opened. "Taeho!" Yuna's voice was shaking. "You are alive?" He tried to speak, but only managed a grunt. The pain was incredible. He should not be conscious. He should not be alive. But he was. Captain Hyun was staring at him with disbelief. "That is impossible. That shot should have killed you." Across the room, the battle was ending. The rebels were being overwhelmed by reinforcements. But none of that mattered to the one person who was watching Taeho with intense interest. Queen Sora stood in the middle of the chaos, untouched by the violence around her. Her warriors had protected her without effort. She had not been the target, and she had known it from the start. But now all her attention was on the human soldier lying on the ground. She had seen everything. She had seen him take a lethal shot. She had seen his heart stop. She had seen him fire back while dying, and she had seen him come back to life. In all her years, she had never witnessed anything like it. "Remarkable," she whispered. Her advisor approached her. "Your Majesty, we should leave. It is not safe." "Safe?" Queen Sora made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Look at that human. Look at what he did. He should be dead, but he refuses to die." Her eyes gleamed with fascination. "I want him. Your Majesty, that human. I want him." Medical teams rushed to Taeho's side. They lifted him onto a stretcher and carried him away. Princess Yuna followed, holding his hand, refusing to let go. Queen Sora watched them disappear into the corridor. Her mind was already working, already planning. Humans were fascinating creatures. She had always known that. But this one, this Kang Taeho, was special. He had shown her something tonight. He had shown her that humans were not just resilient, they were extraordinary, and extraordinary things belonged to her. The Kithrin rebels had failed in their mission. The princess was alive. The alliance would survive for now. But something else had happened tonight, something that would change the course of history. Queen Sora had found her prize, and she always got what she wanted. In the medical bay, Taeho drifted in and out of consciousness. He heard voices around him, urgent and worried. He felt needles in his arms and machines beeping. Once he opened his eyes and saw Yuna sitting beside him. Her silver face was stained with tears. "You saved me," she whispered. "Why? You could have died." He tried to smile. It hurt. Everything hurt. But he managed to speak, just barely. "Because," he said, his voice rough and broken, "you were kind to me." Yuna began to cry again. She held his hand tightly, as if she was afraid he would slip away. Tai-Ho closed his eyes. He thought of Hana, waiting for him on Earth. He thought of the promise he had made. He was still alive. Against all odds, he was still alive. But he had a feeling that his troubles were just beginning. He was in a medical bay, his body wrapped in regeneration gel. The gel was cold and strange, but it was healing his wounds faster than human medicine ever could. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was Captain Hyun sitting beside his bed. "You are awake," the captain said. His voice was tired but relieved. "The doctors said you would recover. I did not believe them until now." Tai-Ho tried to sit up, but pain shot through his chest. He lay back down, breathing hard. "How long was I out?" "3 days. Your heart stopped 4 more times during surgery. Each time it started again on its own." Captain Hyun shook his head slowly. "The Valari doctors have never seen anything like it. They are calling you a miracle." Tai-Ho did not feel like a miracle. He felt like a man who had been shot in the chest. "The princess," he said. "Is she safe?" "She is fine. Thanks to you." Captain Hyun leaned forward. "She has been here every day, sitting by your bed. The Valari Emperor himself sent his gratitude. They want to give you their highest honor." That sounded good. Too good. Tai-Ho knew there had to be something else. He could see it in the captain's eyes. "What is wrong?" he asked. Captain Hyun was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed. "There is a complication." "What kind of complication?" "Queen Sora has made a claim on you." Tai-Ho blinked. "What?" "She has invoked an ancient Kithran law. They call it the right of seizure. Any being who shows exceptional combat ability can be claimed by the Kithran crown. She says you have proven yourself worthy by surviving a fatal wound and killing an enemy while dying." Tai-Ho stared at the ceiling. His mind was having trouble processing this information. "She wants to take me? Like property?" "Yes." "And the Alliance? What do they say?" Captain Hyun's face became hard. "The diplomats are discussing it." That was the answer Tai-Ho feared. When diplomats discussed things, it meant they were considering a deal. It meant his freedom was being weighed against political advantage. "They are going to sell me," he said quietly. "I did not say that." "You did not have to." The door opened and Princess Yuna entered. Her golden eyes were red from crying, but she smiled when she saw Tai-Ho awake. She rushed to his side and took his hand. "You are conscious," she said. "I was so worried." "I am hard to kill," Tai-Ho said, trying to joke. It did not feel funny. Yuna's smile faded. "I heard about the Queen's claim. It is barbaric. My father is fighting against it. But Queen Sora is powerful. She has offered things that our diplomats want." "What things?" "Full military alliance, access to Kithran jump gate technology, resources that could advance humanity by centuries." Yuna squeezed his hand. "They are seriously considering it." Tai-Ho closed his eyes. He thought about Hana. His little sister had spent her whole life fighting illness. She was waiting for him to come home. She believed in him, and now he might be traded away like cargo. "I need to speak to someone," he said. "Who?" Captain Hyun asked. "Queen Sora." Both Yuna and the captain stared at him. "That is a terrible idea," the captain said. "Probably, but I will not sit here and wait for others to decide my fate. If the Queen wants me so badly, she can hear what I have to say." 2 days later, Tai-Ho was strong enough to walk. The regeneration gel had done its work, and though his chest still ached, he could move without collapsing. He put on his uniform and requested a meeting with Queen Sora. To everyone's surprise, she agreed immediately. The meeting took place in the Queen's private quarters on the Kithran flagship. Tai-Ho went alone, despite Captain Hyun's protests. He walked through corridors made of black metal, past guards who looked at him with alien curiosity. Queen Sora was waiting for him in a large chamber. She sat on a throne made of dark crystal, her purple exoskeleton gleaming. Her many eyes watched him as he entered. "The human who will not die," she said. Her voice was smooth and cold. "You asked to see me. I am curious why." Tai-Ho stopped a few meters from her throne. He stood straight despite the pain in his chest. "You want to claim me?" "Yes." "Why?" The Queen tilted her head. "Because you are valuable. You survived what should have killed any creature in this galaxy. You fought back while your heart was stopped. You are something new, something I have never seen before. I am just a man. No. Queen Sora stood from her throne and walked toward him. She was taller than him by half a meter, and her presence was overwhelming. You are more than that. Humans are more than anyone realizes. Your species is young and weak, yet you have spread across the stars. You lose wars and win them again. You die and refuse to stay dead. She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could see his reflection in her dark eyes. I want to understand how. And if I refuse to be your possession? You cannot refuse, the law is clear. Teho met her gaze without flinching. Then I will make you a different offer. The queen's mandibles clicked with interest. Speak. I will come with you willingly, not as a prisoner or a slave, but as a guest. I will answer your questions. I will show you what makes humans strong, but in return, you will treat me with respect. You will not experiment on me, and you will allow me to contact my family. Queen Sora was silent for a long moment. Then she made a sound that might have been laughter. You are negotiating with me, a wounded soldier negotiating with a queen. Do you know how many creatures have tried that? I can guess. None of them succeeded. Then I will be the first. The queen studied him with her many eyes. Teho did not look away. He was afraid, yes. But he had learned long ago that fear did not mean weakness. Sometimes it meant you understood the danger and faced it anyway. You are interesting, Queen Sora finally said. Very interesting. She turned and walked back to her throne. I accept your terms. You will be my guest, not my prisoner. But you will come with me to the Dominion. You will live in my court. And you will teach me about humanity. And if I want to leave someday, we will discuss that when the time comes. It was not a promise. It was not safety. But it was better than being sold against his will. Teho bowed slightly. Then we have a deal. Word spread quickly through the station. The Human Alliance announced that Teho had volunteered to serve as a cultural ambassador to the Kithran Dominion. In exchange, Queen Sora would sign new trade agreements and release human prisoners held in Kithran space. It sounded good on paper. Nobody mentioned that Teho had no choice. Princess Yuna came to see him before he left. Her eyes were full of tears. This is my fault, she said. You saved me, and now you are paying the price. It is not your fault, Teho said gently. I made a choice. I would make it again. Will I ever see you again? He did not know how to answer that, so he just smiled and said, I hope so. She kissed his cheek softly. I will not forget you, Kang Teho, and I will not stop trying to bring you home. Teho boarded the Kithran ship that evening. As the vessel pulled away from the station, he stood at a window and watched Horizon's Edge grow smaller and smaller. He was leaving everything behind. His people, his duty, his chance to go home to Hana. But somehow he did not feel like a prisoner. He felt like he was walking into the unknown by his own choice. And that, at least, was something. The Kithran homeworld was called Nakra. From space, it looked like a black jewel wrapped in rings of asteroid dust. The surface was covered in massive structures of dark metal, cities that stretched for thousands of kilometers. Teho had expected ugliness. Instead, he found a strange and terrible beauty. The Kithran flagship docked at the capital city, and Teho was escorted through corridors filled with alien life. Kithrans of all sizes moved around him. Some were warriors, tall and armored. Others were workers, smaller and quicker. They all stopped to stare at the human walking among them. He was the first human to ever set foot on Nakra. He would probably be remembered for it. He was not sure if that was a good thing. Queen Sora led him personally to his quarters. They were located in the royal palace, high above the city. The rooms were large and filled with strange furniture. The walls were made of some dark material that absorbed light, but there was a window, and through it, Teho could see the alien sky. These are your chambers, Queen Sora said. You may move freely within the palace. Guards will accompany you for your protection. For my protection, Teho repeated, not to keep me trapped. Of course not. The queen's voice held something that might have been amusement. You are my guest, remember? I remember. For the first few weeks, Teho was left mostly alone. Scientists came to examine him, taking samples of his blood and scanning his body with strange machines. but they did not cut him open or cause him pain. Queen Sora had given orders, and in the Dominion, the Queen's word was absolute law. Tai-Ho used the time to observe and learn. He watched the Kithrans go about their daily lives. He learned their language, their customs, their history. What he discovered surprised him. The Kithran Dominion was dying, not from war or disease, but from something deeper. Their birth rates had been falling for centuries. Their genetic lines were becoming weaker with each generation. Scientists had tried everything, but nothing worked. The Kithrans were a species racing toward extinction. Queen Sora had taken the throne during the worst of the crisis. She had been young and ruthless, crushing her rivals and seizing power through blood and terror. But she had done it for a reason. She believed that only a strong leader could save her people. So far, she had failed. Tai-Ho learned all this from a Kithran scholar named Doc. The old alien had been assigned to teach Tai-Ho about Kithran culture, and in return, Tai-Ho taught him about humanity. "Your species is fascinating," Doc said one evening. "You breed so quickly. You adapt so easily. In a few thousand years, you went from primitive animals to a galactic power. How?" "I do not know," Tai-Ho admitted. "We just never stopped trying." "That is exactly it." Doc's many eyes blinked thoughtfully. "You never stop, even when you should. Even when it would be logical to give up. You just keep going. Is that strange? To us? Yes. When a Kithran faces impossible odds, they calculate their chances and act accordingly. If the odds are too low, they retreat or surrender. It is logical." Doc paused. "But humans do not seem to care about odds. You fight anyway. You hope anyway. It is irrational and beautiful." Queen Sora began visiting Tai-Ho in the evenings. At first, her visits were brief. She would ask a few questions and leave. But over time, they grew longer. She asked him about human emotions, about love and fear and hope, about why humans formed families and mourned their dead, about why a soldier would die for a princess he barely knew. "I did not think about it," Tai-Ho told her one night. "I saw the danger. I acted. That is all." "But why?" The Queen leaned forward, genuinely confused. "She was not your mate. She was not your family. She was not even your species. Why would you sacrifice yourself?" Tai-Ho thought about the question. He thought about Yuna's kindness, her curiosity, her gentle smile. "Because she was innocent," he said finally. "Because she did not deserve to die. Because I could stop it, even if it cost me everything." He met the Queen's eyes. "Humans protect each other. It is what we do. Even strangers? Sometimes, especially strangers." Queen Sora was silent for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter than usual. "I do not understand that," she admitted, "but I want to." As the weeks passed, something strange began to happen. Tai-Ho started to see Queen Sora differently. She was still cold and calculating. She was still dangerous. But beneath the surface, he glimpsed something else. Something almost like loneliness. She was the most powerful being in the Dominion, but she was completely alone. Everyone around her was either a servant or a rival. Nobody spoke to her honestly. Nobody challenged her. Nobody treated her like a person, except Tai-Ho. "You are not afraid of me," she observed one evening. "Why?" "I have been afraid before," Tai-Ho said. "Fear did not help me survive. So I learned to set it aside. That is very Kithran of you. Maybe humans and Kithrans are not so different." The Queen made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Perhaps not." One night, Tai-Ho was alone in his quarters when his communication device activated. It was a secure channel, heavily encrypted. He did not recognize the signal. Then a face appeared on the screen. Princess Yuna. "Tai-Ho," she whispered. "Can you hear me?" His heart jumped. "Yuna, how did you reach me?" "I have been working for months to establish this channel. It is not safe to talk long." Her golden eyes were intense. "I have not forgotten you. I am trying to find a way to bring you home." "That is dangerous if the Queen finds out." "I do not care about the danger." Yuna's voice was fierce. "You saved my life. I owe you everything. I will not rest until you are free." Tai-Ho did not know what to say. He had thought everyone had forgotten him. He had thought he was alone. "Thank you," he said quietly. But Yuna, things here are complicated. The queen, she is not what I expected. She is, she is a monster, Yuna interrupted. Do not forget that. She is more than that. She is trying to save her people. She is lonely and lost and desperate. I think, he paused, struggling to find the words. I think I might be able to change her. Yuna stared at him through the screen. You cannot be serious. I do not know what I am, but I know that leaving now might not be the right choice. Not yet. The connection crackled with static. Yuna's face flickered. Be careful, she said. Please, Taeho, be careful. The screen went dark. Taeho sat in silence for a long time. He thought about Yuna, fighting for him across the stars. He thought about Hana, waiting on Earth. He thought about Queen Sora, asking questions she had never asked anyone before. He was in the heart of the monster's court, but maybe, just maybe, the monster was not beyond saving. It was a foolish hope, irrational and dangerous. But Taeho was human, and humans never stopped hoping. 6 months passed on Nakra. Taeho's life settled into a strange routine. Mornings were spent with the scholars, answering their endless questions about human biology and behavior. Afternoons were for physical training in the Kithrin fighting arenas. Evenings belonged to Queen Sora. The training was the hardest part. Kithrin warriors were brutal and efficient. They fought to hurt, to break, to destroy. Taeho was not allowed to refuse their challenges. It was part of his agreement with the queen. He had to prove that humans could survive in her world. So he fought, and he lost, again and again. The Kithrin warriors were stronger than him, faster. Their bodies were weapons. Each day, Taeho was beaten, cut, and thrown to the ground. Each night, he was healed by Kithrin medicine. Each morning, he got back up and fought again. The warriors began to respect him, not because he won, but because he refused to stop. No matter how badly they hurt him, he always came back. He always got up. He always tried again. You are insane, one warrior told him after a particularly brutal match. Any Kithrin would have surrendered long ago. Taeho spat blood onto the floor. I am not Kithrin. Word spread through the Dominion. The human guest was different. He did not break like other soft species. He did not beg or plead. He faced pain with a strange smile and kept going. Queen Sora watched his training sessions from her private viewing chamber. She told herself it was scientific interest. She told herself many things. The truth was more complicated. Taeho had become important to her in ways she did not fully understand. Their evening conversations had evolved into something deeper. He challenged her thinking. He questioned her decisions. He treated her like a person, not a goddess or a monster. Nobody had ever done that before. Why do humans love? She asked him one night. What is the purpose? They were sitting in her private garden, a place where strange plants from 100 worlds grew in artificial light. It was the only soft place in the entire palace. Taeho considered the question. Love does not have a purpose. It just is. It happens whether we want it to or not. That sounds inefficient. It is. He smiled slightly. But it is also what makes us strong. Humans will do incredible things for the people they love. We will work harder, fight longer, endure more pain. Love gives us power that logic cannot explain. Power through weakness, the queen murmured. That is what you are saying. Your attachments make you vulnerable, but also stronger. Yes, we Kithrins removed such attachments long ago. We believed they made us weak. She was quiet for a moment. Perhaps we were wrong. It was the closest she had ever come to admitting doubt. Taeho knew better than to push. One day, a Kithrin general named Vok requested an audience with the queen. Taeho was present, standing in his usual place near the throne. General Vok was large even by Kithrin standards. His shell was scarred from countless battles, and his eyes held nothing but contempt when they looked at Taeho. Your Majesty, Vok said, I must speak plainly. Your interest in the human is causing concern among the military. Some believe you have grown soft. Queen Sora's voice was ice. Do they? He is a distraction, a toy. He has no place in our court. Vok glanced at Taeho. I propose a final test. Let him face me in combat. If he survives, he has earned his place. If not, the problem solves itself. Tai-Ho felt a chill run down his spine. General Vok was not like the training warriors. He was a killer, one of the deadliest fighters in the Dominion. "No," Queen Sora said flatly. "Your Majesty." "I said no. The human is under my protection. Your challenge is denied." Vok's mandibles clicked with anger. "As you wish." He bowed stiffly and left. But Tai-Ho knew this was not over. He had seen the hatred in the general's eyes. Vok would not give up so easily. He was right. 3 days later, Tai-Ho was training in the arena when the accident happened. A piece of equipment failed. A training weapon that should have been harmless became lethal. It struck Tai-Ho in the side, piercing his body with a blade meant for war. He fell, blood pouring from the wound. The warriors around him froze. Some ran for help. Others just stared. Tai-Ho lay on the ground, feeling his life slipping away. The blade had hit something vital. He could feel it. This was not like the plasma bolt on Horizon's Edge. This was worse. But even as darkness crept into his vision, he refused to give up. His hands pressed against the wound. His will pushed against death. "Not yet," he whispered. "Not like this." Queen Sora arrived minutes later. She had been alerted the moment the accident happened, and she had run through the palace like something wild and desperate. When she saw Tai-Ho on the ground, something inside her cracked. "Save him," she ordered the medical team. Her voice was shaking. "Whatever it takes, save him." Tai-Ho was rushed to the royal medical chambers. The best surgeons in the Dominion worked on him for hours. His heart stopped twice. Twice it started again. While he was in surgery, Queen Sora conducted her own investigation. It did not take long to find the truth. The equipment had been sabotaged, and the saboteur had been acting on General Vok's orders. The Queen did not hesitate. She went to the Great Hall where all the nobles and generals had gathered. She walked up to General Vok, who was standing among his supporters with a satisfied expression. "General Vok," she said, her voice carrying across the hall, "you attempted to kill someone under my protection." Vok's expression faltered. "Your Majesty, I do not know what you mean. It was an accident." "Lies!" The Queen drew her blade in one smooth motion. "The punishment for threatening the crown is death." She killed him in front of everyone. One clean strike, no trial, no discussion. The most powerful general in her military fell to the floor, and she did not even look at his body. "Does anyone else wish to question my judgment?" she asked the silent hall. Nobody spoke. Tai-Ho woke up 3 days later. Queen Sora was sitting beside his bed, something she had never done before. Her eyes were different, softer, almost vulnerable. "You killed him," Tai-Ho said. His voice was weak. "The general, I heard. He tried to take you from me." Her voice was quiet. "I could not allow that." "You cared that much?" The Queen did not answer. She did not need to. Her presence there, by his side, said everything. Something had changed between them. Something profound. Tai-Ho was not sure what it meant, but he knew it was important. And he knew that the galaxy was watching. A queen who killed for a human. A queen who showed weakness. Word would spread. Enemies would see opportunity. But as Tai-Ho looked at Queen Sora's face, at the fear and hope hidden in her alien eyes, he found that he did not regret anything. She was changing, slowly and painfully, but changing. And maybe, just maybe, the change could save more than just one life. Maybe it could save an empire. 1 year after Tai-Ho arrived on Nakra, a small ship entered Kithrin space. It was disguised as a trading vessel, carrying cargo from a neutral world. The Kithrin Border Patrol scanned it briefly and let it pass. They had no reason to suspect anything unusual. Inside the ship, Princess Yuna checked her weapon for the 10th time. "Nervous?" Captain Hyun asked. He was older now, his hair streaked with gray, but his eyes were sharp as ever. "Terrified," Yuna admitted, "but I have waited too long for this." The rescue mission had taken months to plan. Yuna had worked in secret, gathering resources and recruiting volunteers. Captain Hyun had come out of retirement to lead the team. A dozen of humanity's best soldiers had volunteered for a mission they might not survive, all for one man. "He saved my life," Yuna had told them. "Now I will save his." The ship landed on Nakra under cover of darkness. Yuna and her team moved through the shadows of the capital city, using stolen codes and bribed contacts to slip past security. They had studied the palace layout for weeks. They knew exactly where Taiho's quarters were. But they did not know everything. Taiho was awake when they arrived. He had felt something strange all evening, a tension in the air. When his door slid open and Yuna stepped inside, he was not entirely surprised. "Yuna," he breathed. She ran to him and embraced him tightly. Her body was shaking. "I found you. I finally found you." Captain Hyun entered behind her, along with 4 soldiers. They moved quickly, securing the room. "We need to go," the captain said. "Now. Our window is small." Taeho looked at them. His heart was pounding. After a year in this strange place, he had almost forgotten what it felt like to see human faces. But something held him back. "Wait," he said. Yuna pulled back, her golden eyes confused. "What is wrong? If I leave now, everything falls apart." Taeho struggled to find the words. "The queen, she has changed. Because of me. Because of what I have shown her. If I disappear, she will see it as betrayal. She will become the monster everyone believes she is." "She is already a monster," Yuna said fiercely. "She took you against your will." "At first, yes, but now—" Taeho shook his head. "It is complicated." "It is not complicated. You are a prisoner. We are rescuing you." Yuna grabbed his hand. "Think of your sister. Think of Hana. She needs you." That struck deep. Taeho felt the pain of it in his chest. He thought of Hana's face, her smile, her laugh. He thought of all the promises he had made. "I know," he said quietly. "I know." Captain Hyun stepped forward. "Taeho, I understand what you're saying, but we cannot stay. The alarms will trigger soon. If you want to help the Queen, you can do it later, through diplomatic channels. Right now, you need to come with us." Taeho closed his eyes. His mind was torn in 2 directions. Part of him wanted to run, to go home, to see his sister one more time, but another part of him knew what leaving would mean. Queen Sora trusted him. She had opened herself to him in ways she had never done with anyone. If he abandoned her now, that trust would shatter. She would close herself off forever. She would become colder and more dangerous than before, and the galaxy would suffer for it. "I cannot make this decision alone," Taeho said finally. "The Queen needs to hear this. She needs to know I have a choice." "Are you insane?" one of the soldiers whispered. "Probably." Taeho moved to his communication panel and pressed a button. It was a direct line to the Queen's chambers, one she had given him for emergencies. "What are you doing?" Yuna asked, alarmed. "The right thing." "I hope—" Queen Sora's face appeared on the screen. Her eyes widened when she saw the human soldiers in Taeho's room. "Taeho," she said slowly, "what is happening?" "They came to rescue me," he said. "Princess Yuna organized a mission. They want to take me home." The Queen's expression hardened. For a moment, Taeho saw the old Sora, the cold ruler who had seized him as property. Her hand moved toward what he knew was an alarm. "Wait," he said. "Please, just listen." She stopped. Her eyes met his through the screen. "I could leave right now," Taeho continued. "I could go with them and never look back. You cannot stop us in time. By the time your guards arrive, we will be gone." "Then why are you telling me this?" "Because I wanted you to know that I have a choice. And I want to know what you will do when I make it." Queen Sora was silent. The tension in the room was unbearable. "If I ask you to stay," she said finally, "will you? Not as your prisoner, not as your property." Taeho took a deep breath. "But if you ask me to stay as your equal, as someone who matters to you, then yes, I will stay." "Taeho, no!" Yuna cried. He held up his hand. "Let her answer." Queen Sora stared at him for what felt like an eternity. Her alien face was impossible to read. Taeho had no idea what she was thinking. Then something changed. Something softened in her many eyes. "Stay," she said quietly. "Not as my prisoner, not as my prize. Stay because I am asking you to. Because you have shown me things I never understood before. Because I—" She stopped, struggling with words she had never spoken. "Because I need you." The room was silent. Taeho turned to Yuna. Tears were streaming down her silver face. I am sorry, he said. I know this is not what you wanted, but I have to do this. If I leave now, everything I have built here will be destroyed. The queen will become our enemy again. War will follow. Millions will die. And if you stay, then maybe, just maybe, I can prevent that. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She smiled, sad and proud at the same time. You really are the most stubborn human I have ever met, she said. Is that a compliment? I have not decided yet. Captain Hyun stepped forward. The mission was to bring you home, Taeho. If you will not come, we have failed. No, Taeho said. You succeeded. You showed me that I have not been forgotten. You reminded me what I am fighting for. He looked at each of them. Now go, before the queen changes her mind. They left quickly, disappearing into the night. Taeho stood alone in his quarters, his heart heavy but his mind clear. Minutes later, Queen Sora arrived in person. She stood in his doorway, looking at him with an expression he had never seen before. You could have left, she said. I know. But you chose to stay. I did. She walked toward him slowly. When she stopped, they were closer than they had ever been. He could see the complex patterns in her exoskeleton, the faint light reflecting in her eyes. Why? She asked. Why would you give up your freedom for me? Taeho thought about all the answers he could give. The diplomatic reasons, the strategic calculations, the greater good. But in the end, he just told her the truth. Because you asked me to stay, and nobody has ever asked you for anything before. They have only demanded or obeyed. He met her eyes without fear. I wanted to show you what it feels like when someone chooses you. Not your power, not your crown. Just you. Queen Sora was silent for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. I do not deserve that. Maybe not, Taeho said, but you can learn to. For the first time in her long life, the Queen of the Kithrin Dominion did not have a response, and that, Taeho thought, was a beginning. Queen Sora of the Kithrin Dominion requested a meeting with the Human Alliance and the Valari Empire, not for threats or demands, but for negotiation, true negotiation. The summit was held on neutral ground, at a station even larger than Horizon's Edge. Representatives from all three powers gathered, whispering among themselves, wondering what the ruthless Kithrin Queen was planning. Taeho stood beside her when she entered the Great Hall. He was no longer wearing prisoner's clothes or guest robes. He wore the uniform of a Kithrin ambassador, modified to fit a human body. It was a statement that made everyone stare. Princess Yuna was there, representing the Valari Empire. When she saw Taeho, she smiled. It was a small smile, still touched with sadness, but also with understanding. She had seen him choose to stay. She knew why. Queen Sora spoke first. I have ruled the Dominion for many years, she said. Her voice filled the hall without effort. I have conquered. I have destroyed. I have taken whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted it. That is the Kithrin way. The representatives shifted nervously. This was not how diplomatic speeches usually began. But I was wrong. Silence fell over the hall. Nobody had ever heard the Kithrin Queen admit fault. A human taught me something, Sora continued. He showed me that strength does not come from fear. It comes from connection, from trust, from the willingness to sacrifice for others. She paused. My people are dying. Our species faces extinction. I thought conquest would save us. But I was wrong. We cannot survive alone. She turned to Taeho, and something passed between them. A look of respect, of gratitude, of something more. Today I offer a new path, the Queen said. Not alliance through necessity or fear, but true partnership. The Kithrin Dominion will release all human prisoners immediately. We will open our borders to trade and cultural exchange. We will share our technology freely. She looked around the hall. In return, we ask only to be treated as equals. Not monsters, not conquerors, just another species trying to survive. The hall erupted in whispers. This was unprecedented. This was impossible. The Kithrin Dominion did not ask for anything. They took. But here was their queen, asking. Princess Yuna stood. The Valari Empire accepts. We welcome this new chapter in our history. The Human Alliance representative rose next. As do we. With cautious hope, We look forward to peace. It was done. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy transformed. Kithrin's ships that once carried weapons now carried medicine and food. Human scientists visited Nakra to study Kithrin biology. Villari artists performed in Kithrin theaters. Old enemies became cautious friends. And at the center of it all was Tai Ho. He was given an official title, Ambassador of Humanity to the Kithrin Dominion. It was an important job, but Tai Ho did not care about titles. He cared about the work. He helped establish the first human school on Nakra. He organized cultural exchanges between species. He mediated disputes and soothed fears on both sides. Every day he worked to build bridges between worlds that had been at war for centuries. Queen Sora worked beside him. She was still learning how to connect, how to trust, how to lead through inspiration rather than fear. It was difficult for her. Some days she wanted to return to her old ways. But Tai Ho was always there to remind her of the path she had chosen. "You are doing well," he told her one evening. They were standing on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The lights below stretched to the horizon. "I do not know what I am doing," she admitted. "I have never felt so uncertain." "That is how it feels to hope," Tai Ho said. "It is uncomfortable, but it is also the beginning of something better." She looked at him with her many eyes. "Do you ever regret staying?" "No." He said it without hesitation. "I have a purpose here. I am making a difference. That is more than I ever expected." "And your sister, Hana?" Tai Ho smiled. "I spoke to her yesterday. She is doing well. Her treatments are working. She says she is proud of me." His voice grew soft. "She said that our father would have been proud too. You miss your home. Every day. But sometimes the place you are needed is not the place you want to be. And that is okay." 6 months later, Tai Ho returned to Earth for the first time. It was an official visit, part of a diplomatic tour. But the first thing he did after landing was go to a small apartment in a city called Busan. Hana opened the door. She was thin and pale, but her eyes were bright. When she saw her brother standing there, she burst into tears and threw her arms around him. "You came back," she sobbed. "You really came back." "I promised," he said, holding her tightly. "I always keep my promises." They spent 3 days together. Tai Ho told her everything that had happened. The assassination, the queen, the choice to stay. Hana listened without judgment. When he finished, she just smiled. "You saved a monster," she said. "She was never really a monster, just lost." "And now?" Tai Ho thought about Queen Sora. About how far she had come, about how much further she still had to go. "Now she is trying," he said. "That is all any of us can do." When it was time to leave, Hana walked him to the shuttle. They stood together under the gray sky, neither wanting to say goodbye. "Will you ever come home for good?" she asked. "Someday," Tai Ho said, "when my work is done, when peace is strong enough to last without me." He touched her face gently. "Until then, know that everything I do for you, for Earth, for all of us." "I know." Hana smiled through her tears. "You are my hero, brother. You always have been." Tai Ho boarded the shuttle and returned to the stars. Years passed. The peace held. The Kithrin Dominion slowly transformed from a feared empire into a respected partner. Queen Sora became a different kind of leader, one who inspired rather than terrified. She never forgot who had taught her to change, and Tai Ho remained at her side, not as a prisoner, not as a prize, but as a friend, an advisor, and something more that neither of them had words for. One day, many years later, a reporter asked Queen Sora about the human who had changed history. "He saved a princess with his own body," the reporter said, "and you seized him as your prize. How do you explain what happened after?" Queen Sora was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than it had ever been in public. "I thought I was taking him," she said, "but in truth he was saving me. He showed me that the universe is not just about power. It is about connection, about choosing to care for someone other than yourself." She paused. "Humans call it love. We Kithrins did not have a word for it. Now we do." "And what is that word?" The queen smiled. It was a strange expression on her alien face, but also strangely beautiful. "Tai Ho," she said. "The word is Tai Ho. Far away in his quarters in the palace, Taiho watched the interview on a screen. He laughed softly and shook his head. Then he looked out at the stars, thinking of Earth, of Hana, of all the people he loved across the vast darkness of space. He had been a soldier once. Now he was something more. A bridge, a teacher, a hope. He had saved the princess with his body, but in the end he had saved the queen with something far more powerful, his humanity. And that, in the end, was what humans were best at. Not conquering, not destroying, just being human. And somehow, that was enough.